Hey everybody, Brian Hart Hoffman here in the Bake From Scratch kitchen. Today I'm excited to share my recipe for milk bread cinnamon rolls with you. These are soft and pillowy, buttery, fluffy, and they're featuring my favorite yeast to work with in the kitchen, Red Star Yeast, because the results are always amazing. It's gonna be delicious, you are gonna love it, and let's get started. We'll start by making our Tang Zong, or the milk roux, which is the base of any milk bread. Now this magical creation is a combination of milk and bread flour that we're gonna heat first on the stovetop. And you're looking to whisk constantly, heating this up until you have a nice thick paste. And it should look like mashed potatoes actually. And that is going to give this bread the most amazing texture. Think soft, pillowy, and what is that magic ingredient? It's this, the Tang Zong. And you're just gonna whisk until you can see the marks of the whisk in the pan. And then we'll check the temperature to see if we are at 150 degrees. And then all you need to do is let it cool to 130 degrees or even room temperature before you use it in the dough. And then I take it off the heat immediately when I see that it looks like the mashed potato. All right, let's check our temperature. 151. Good deal. Let's keep things moving with the next element of the recipe. And I've got some milk that I heated to a scalding temperature of 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And then now I've let it cool to 110 to 115 so that I can bloom our yeast. But before I do that, I'll tell you why you scald the milk. Scalding the milk helps to eliminate the whey protein in the milk that weakens gluten. So this gives us proper rising and better results by getting the milk ready like that to start with. Then I'll take a packet of Red Star active dry yeast, and I'm gonna whisk it together in the measuring cup with some granulated sugar. And then after everything is combined, I need to let this stand for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's nice and foamy. Now, I know that it's gonna work because Red Star makes amazing products and I only use Red Star yeast when I'm in the kitchen baking. So the proof is in the results. Now let's get everything in the bowl of the stand mixer and knead some dough. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to place bread flour in the bowl of the stand mixer with some granulated sugar and salt. Then I'm gonna hand whisk these ingredients just to get things combined here in the bowl before adding our Tang Zong. So here is the milk roux that we made. It's cooled down enough. It's going in to start building out this beautiful dough that you are going to absolutely love. Then we will take a room temperature egg and place that in the bowl as well. And then we'll finish it off with our yeast mixture, and you can see that beautiful foam on the top showing you that we have this beautiful yeast active and ready to go into the bowl. So now that I have everything in, we're gonna start with the paddle attachment. Using the paddle, it really helps us combine everything quicker than if we just started with the dough hook. And I'm just getting this combined. I wanna make sure that all of the flour that's on the side of the bowl, all of these ingredients come together. Gonna move this so you can see a little bit better. And you wanna check to see if there's any pockets of flour that aren't getting combined. Here's the chance to build the base of the dough. So stop, scrape, and make sure all of these ingredients are coming together before we proceed with adding more of the flour to the bowl. Perfect, with everything combined, now I'll take the remaining portion of the bread flour and I'm gonna gradually add. So I could just put some in the bowl and then start our stand mixer, getting this combined, and you're gonna start to see a shaggy dough that comes together. And if your stand mixer is pretty fast at the combination of these ingredients and you don't want the flour jumping out of the bowl, just turn it off and add more flour. And a few additions to start getting everything brought together, but I'll show you what shaggy dough looks like. Here we go. When you see all of these ingredients clinging to the paddle, you've got this rugged, not smooth, not bread dough looking combination. You know you're ready to switch to the dough hook. You don't want too much of this clinging to the paddle because now we're gonna switch to the other tool. Using the dough hook, turn your stand mixer onto a low speed and let this knead until you have a tacky, elastic, and slightly smooth dough. That's about 8 minutes. The dough has been kneading for about 8 minutes, but it shouldn't be too sticky. And you can see that when I place my hand on the dough, it's sticking to my fingers. That's why we have an extra 1/4 cup of the bread flour that we reserved to add 1 tablespoon at a time if the dough is too sticky to touch. So I'm gonna start just by adding 1 tablespoon and letting this knead for a few minutes, and then I'll check it again. After adding that 1 tablespoon of flour, the dough looks great, but we're not done yet. That dough hook goes right back on because we're going to enrich this dough by adding 5 tablespoons of butter. Now you'll add your butter 1 tablespoon at a time, and you need to let that 1 tablespoon of butter combine completely before adding the next. And be sure to scrape down the sides and bottom of the bowl as you do this as well. When you're kneading, your dough may start to look smooth and elastic, and you can touch it, it's not too sticky, but the way we know that we've properly kneaded the dough is to do a window pane test. So what I'm doing is I'm pinching off a piece of the dough, and the goal is to be able to stretch the dough in your hands until you have a nice thin piece of dough that light passes through. The dough should be able to stretch without tearing. And you can see right here, it just tore immediately as I put some tension on it. So I need to knead the dough for a few more minutes, and then I'll show you a perfect window pane test when it's ready. After a few more minutes of kneading, look at that. Beautifully thin and light is passing through. There is a window pane test, and our dough is now ready for its first rise. Before I do that, I'll take the dough that I took out of the stand mixer, and I'm just gonna use the kitchen counter to shape this into a nice smooth round. Just getting a nice shape and some surface tension on the dough. Then I have a bowl that I've lightly oiled, and I'm gonna place the dough in with the top side down and then turn it immediately so that I have this nice oiled top so the dough will not dry out. I'll loosely cover the bowl with some plastic wrap or a kitchen towel, and I'll let it sit at room temperature, so about 75-degree room, for about 45 minutes to an hour until it doubles in size. The dough is almost doubled in size and ready to move forward with our shaping, so let's make our brown sugar mixture that we're gonna put inside our cinnamon rolls. Now I'm starting with some room temperature butter. This is unsalted butter, and to this I'm adding firmly packed light brown sugar and cinnamon. Working with the room temperature butter makes this really nice and easy. And you're just gonna combine all of these ingredients until you have a nice cohesive mixture. Perfect. Now I'll set this aside and let's roll out our dough. To have everything prepared, I have a 13x9 baking pan that I've sprayed with a baking spray with flour, and I've lined it with parchment, just letting the sides of the parchment hang over the pan. So that's prepared, and now we'll roll out the dough. You turn out your dough onto the surface, and we're gonna roll this into an 18x12-inch rectangle. So the first thing I do is I start shaping the dough in my hands, stretching it just a little bit, maybe even pressing, and then giving myself the shape that I want it to be. When you start with a round, rolling the dough can get a little bit out of control. I'm putting a little bit of flour on the rolling pin, and then I'm just gonna start rolling from the center, and then getting this shape. The dough is really nice to work with, so you can use your hands to do a little bit of stretching as well. And then we'll check our measurements to see how we're doing. We're at 10x12, so we have a little bit more to go. Okay, after rolling out the dough, we're gonna get our brown sugar cinnamon mixture on the dough, and I'm gonna leave a 1/4-inch border on one of the long sides. So for the rest of it, I'm just gonna sprinkle it all over. And when I'm doing this, I'm intentional about not putting the large clump in the center and then trying to spread from there. So this will help get a nice even coating of the filling by just dotting it on the dough and then spreading it. After getting your cinnamon filling nice and even on the dough, we're gonna start on one of the long sides and start rolling this up and getting that nice tight spiral. So I'll show you my tricks for doing that. So I roll just a little bit here at the beginning, and I use my hands with even pressure, and then I stop and I pull back just a little bit to create some tension in the dough, and this helps to get a nice tight spiral. And then I just use my hands to roll evenly, keeping that tension as I do it. Trying to keep the same measurements that we started with, so using your hands to tuck the sides in. And then right when I get to the end, I pull that corner up to get a nice square edge and finish rolling. Now, first thing I do is I check to make sure that I've got a nice even consistency from this same thickness all the way across. Two methods you can use to cut your cinnamon rolls into the individual pieces. You could use a sharp chef knife or a serrated edge that doesn't tear the dough, or you can use my favorite method, and that is unscented dental floss, and you get a perfect cut each and every time. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim the ends. So these are the more inconsistent parts of the roll, and I'm gonna save those because I might need it, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then I'll take a ruler and I'm gonna use a knife to mark at the 1.5 inch interval for each one. So this is just gonna help me when I come back to cut. After marking the dough, I'll continue using the dental floss by going under the roll, and then when I get to the top, I cross and pull tightly just to get a nice clean cut. And you can see I didn't smash the dough or anything, and I have this nice round shape. Now you'll place this with the cut side down in the prepared pan and finish getting all of them in. If you see that one of the cinnamon rolls is a little too thin just because you might have mismeasured, take one of the ends that you've already trimmed and just tuck it under. It'll help to even it out in the pan so that each of the cinnamon rolls are the same size. After they're in the pan, you're gonna cover and let them rise again until puffed. That's about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then it's time to bake. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees. It is time to bake, but one more thing before they go in the oven. I have some heavy whipping cream that I am just going to pour evenly on and around the cinnamon rolls. And this trick keeps them soft and pillowy. It's like a pan of centers. And you know, if you love the center of a cinnamon roll, you don't need any dry edges. And this pouring of the heavy cream is the trick that keeps them perfect. All right, we did the work. They're beautifully baked, but they're missing one thing. After they cool for 10 minutes, then it's go time on the cream cheese icing. And this is, the decadence that just makes cinnamon rolls so good. So I just start by dolloping this over those rolls, and then I'll come back and spread it on top just to get in all the right grooves and nooks and crannies, because you know you want that cream cheese icing on everything, from the bowl to the roll. Okay, you can serve these warm, because why wouldn't you? Or at room temperature, but I don't think they can last that long. But we are gonna get into one right now. Oh yeah. I don't even need a plate. Look at this thing. Beautiful. Oh, all right, before I put a big bite in my mouth, I just wanna say thank you for joining me in the kitchen today. The description for the video includes the link to the recipe and how you can be a part of the Bake From Scratch community, in addition to all the information about Red Star products. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you'll never miss another delicious moment like this. It's your turn though. Preheat your ovens, it's time to bake, and it's time for me to dig in and enjoy.